Kia ora, hello. This week we are going to talk about group impressions. We have touched on this in the past, however, I've been wanting to visit this in depth. I've previously discussed on our video on the individual impression and about being your own context, and to be honest, I'm a big fan of that. But there is definitely something to be said about joining a group and pooling your resources to be able to create better impressions and events. There are some hurdles to group impressions though. There is a need to work with other people, so there is always the need to negotiate and balance personal goals and desires within the group. As always, this video is handy for both new and experienced reenactors. In this video, we will discuss the benefits of group impressions and some suggestions you can use to help your group work together and build better impressions. First, let's discuss the benefits of a group impression. There is nothing more amazing to us as reenactors or the public to see a group of people in consistent period dress all working towards a common project, be this a combat display, craft project, or just bustling around in an encampment. Having someone else that is reenacting your period with you makes lots of projects and displays much better and simpler. Sure, being your own context is awesome, but if you want to go and fight someone, for example, it's always nicer to fight someone who reenacts your period. Wait, what's that sound? Oh, that's the sound of all the angry comments telling me that I was wrong. I know there are plenty of multi-period groups, and the SCA as well, who do mixed period, and that is totally fine, and please, keep on doing that. But stay with me here. From a living history perspective, it is also nice to reenact and fight someone whose gear and fighting style is analogous to yours. If you are a late medieval combatant in full harness, you are not worried about your Dark Age buddy with their Valsgard helmet accidentally getting hit in the face while you are peering through your ocularium of your Kugelshelm, while they're trying to kill the tank in full plate, so they are bashing away at you because they think you cannot feel the hits. So when you are fighting someone who reenacts the same period as you, in the same group, hopefully, you are fighting someone who understands your equipment, how it functions, and since you all train together, you understand each other's limits. Did I make that better? I think I might have made things worse. Look, just keep the fighting in the comments down to a dull roar, okay? Moving on. Jokes aside, let's be frank for a moment. The group impression is also only ever as good as its worst member. Now, this is not an indictment of people's commitment to their group or their love of reenactment. Many people lack the skills, funds, time, or knowledge to create an impression that meets the standards of the rest of the group is sitting at. This is where I say, turn your weakness into a strength. As I usually say, this is a teaching opportunity. A prime example is the newbie. They will not have much, if anything, in the way of kit or knowledge, but they are definitely keen. They will put their backs to tasks that most of us are maybe a bit tired of doing, or like me, just too old to do. Honestly, the passion can do an old hand good too, especially when you are close to burnout. It can remind you why you started to get involved in this madness in the first place. The benefit of the group is that many hands make light work. You can assist each other with projects and share knowledge. The other benefit is to share skills around the community, pass it on to new people and a new generation. This uplifts us all. This ensures the continuation of our hobby and our passion. Don't let your group be knowledge hoarders. That's a reenactment no-no. What things can you do with your group to make it easier for teaching and learning? Let's talk about some of the resources I have found that are helpful for a group to have. Let's say you are new to reenactment and you and your friends decide to make your own group because no local groups reenact what you want to depict. Let's say Bronze Age Anatolian goat herders. Or what if you are not new to the hobby? You instead have decided to continue the age-old tradition of reenactment and split and form your own group. First, make sure you have some basic documentation for your members. It can be important to have some kind of code of conduct. If your group has an internal structure, best set that out too, if that's your thing. If your group does fight, write up your rules and guidelines. These set minimum behaviors and safety standards that people need to adhere to on and off the combat field. This can and will help reduce conflict at a later point. Other documents that are helpful are to have a basic gear guide. This can be as simple as a list of preferred merchants and retailers that your group endorses, to a list of gear that someone needs to make and or buy to reach the minimum level of accuracy your members are required to meet. My suggestion for gear guides is to try to make sure that these have any research notes included. This will be really helpful to anyone with minimal knowledge so they can have an idea of what resources that they need to be looking at when considering making or buying an item. For example, if you were to say recommend a hood of a certain style for a woman of a noble impression in the late 14th century, include images of the London hood. An impression guide could be helpful too. This will help members figure out what their impression is. Say, for example, if they are late 14th century merchants, what does that mean? Have some suggested roles and dress guides for people as a template. Once people are more confident how to reenact after a season or two, they can then change what they want to reenact is. You don't want to be a clerk anymore? Great. You would love to do medieval carpentry? Fantastic. Since they would have exposure to research and medieval crafts, they will feel more comfortable exploring that space by themselves without being prompted at every meeting. I mean, we've all had this conversation, right? So what impression do you want? Oh, a knight. But yeah, from like what country? Yeah, but like how wealthy? And what is your heraldry? No, you can't have 3 lions passant. Someone already has that. What do you mean who? Build a group library. This can be ebooks, physical books, or a combination of both. Books are expensive. New people or just people living on a budget will appreciate being able to borrow from the group library. This also allows for consistent knowledge to be shared through the group. Do the same for useful websites, Facebook groups, and your favorite YouTubers. Share the love. Build a list and have a social media hub or website with e-resources and links for your group to use as a reference site. Try putting some group gear together, just basic stuff for people to borrow so they are able to attend events while they save for more expensive items like arms and armor. Group cooking and eating gear, tables and a tent or two is something that will help out many people be able to get over the line and make it to their first event. Run craft events with your group. Make some simple items with everyone, belts, pouches, undergarments, or make tables, a tent, have an armoring days, and you all make some mail. Many hands make light work. At the end of the event, people will have something to show for the day, and most importantly, everyone will have learnt new skills. I'm sure there are plenty of other ideas that people do with their group that I have forgotten. Please don't hesitate to share what your group does. Now, before we finish up this week's episode, I think we need to touch on something that is important that all groups face at one point or another: giving and receiving feedback. This can be difficult since the people in our groups are our friends. Because of this, we want to help them succeed. When in a reenactment group, we see it necessary to pass on feedback on other people's kit, fighting, conduct, or impression. This can be fraught with hazard and at times hurt friendships and split groups. I'm going to share some suggestions on how this can be done in a way to minimize conflict. There is a caveat though. Sometimes people will still be hurt anyway. So please don't blame me because our YouTube suggestion did not work. Agreed? Cool. When providing feedback, there are some key points to remember. 1. Is this welcome? This can be hard for us to hear, especially for us authenticity nuts. we can see the world through a lens of close enough is not good enough. But everyone has different standards, abilities, resources, and goals for reenactment. Don't just go around source checking everyone because it does not meet your standards. If someone is happy to come in at the very minimum of the club or event standards just to be there, they are not going to listen as to why the stitch length on their tunic is actually too long to be 12th century and is more common to a 13th century tunic actually. 2. Ask, don't tell. Don't assume that someone has made a mistake because they are actually doing something you are not familiar with. It can go a long way to ask someone how or why they are doing something in a particular way. This is just clarifying how someone came to X conclusion. This can then open a dialogue instead of becoming that guy standing over someone's new toy loudly saying, actually. 3. Be patient. Like the two best things in life, wine and cheese, advice also gets better over time. Let your advice sit with people. Don't nag. Leave it with them to think it over and wait for them to make the changes. It's okay to follow up with them and see how they're going. Once they change, then you can gloat. Finally, and most importantly, always offer solutions. If you do offer advice, don't be a downer telling everyone what they are doing is wrong. Eventually, everyone will stop listening to you. Trust me. Offer ways to help them improve. Share resources, organize training days, offer links to pictures, books, or your favorite Popula Urbanum videos. But what about taking feedback? Well, this is a bit different to giving advice. Receiving feedback can often be a confronting experience. I have a saying that all feedback is good feedback. If there is something I can do to improve, I will. If I'm receiving praise, well then more the better. So first, be open. Listen to what other people have to say. Mostly, people are offering advice and they're doing that because they want to be helpful. Often, our first reaction is to defend our position or research. Take the time to listen to the advice without interruption. It's a hard one for me. 2, be thoughtful. Does this apply to me? Maybe you did read all those books about Louis XV and you nailed your wig spot on. Now some dude has come up to you and is telling you that French aristocracy did a different kind of curl during that period. Think about your own research. Does this apply? Maybe you've missed something. 3, thank them. Thank the person for giving the advice. I don't know, especially during this age of Twitter arguments and Facebook wars and whatnot. Maybe I'm just too old. This does go a long way in building a dialogue, however. Importantly, don't feel compelled to take on the feedback if it's not right for you. Do, however, to take the time to listen and discuss about what is being presented. By using these techniques, you will often find the feedback sessions will feel less confrontational and have a more collegial feel to them. The irony of giving advice on how to give advice in a video isn't lost on me. So what did you think about that? Leave some feedback for us on this one. It's been a while for us to post one of these episodes, and we always enjoy your thoughts on the matter.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Means you must have enjoyed the video. So like, comment and subscribe. And remember, stay safe, have fun, and keep reenacting.